Ich sollte vielleicht mal meine Slides öffnen. Ne?
Wird überbewertet.
Ja, tatsächlich sind die Slides zu diesem Talk auch scheiße. Da mache ich auch schon lange keine. Ja, finde ich auch.
Okay, dann starten wir. 3, 2, 1. Hello, hello and welcome everyone to our 8th Lectures at Home. I can speak today. Session. This time we have Sia as a guest, and he will tell us about unleash the full power of Excel spreadsheets with Azure Serverless. And yeah, if there are any questions, feel free to raise your hand or write a question in chat. If it's okay for you, Sia, then they could also talk directly.
Sure.
Okay.
I don't mind.
Great. Then I will hand over the microphone to you and you can start.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sia. Not sure if I'm fully seeable. Probably I should share my screen, right? Let me see. Let me share my screen. Can you see my screen?
We can see custom functions for Excel PowerPoint slides.
Awesome. Great. So, hi, welcome. Thanks for having me as a guest. I won't go through the slides very quickly because the slides are not that nice. Unfortunately, there is not much new information about what is happening here. But we'll just, for a little bit, look through Azure Functions and then Excel custom functions. And then we'll jump right into the samples and see code. I hope you're all familiar with functions a bit, and with Excel you don't have to be. I'm not. Yeah, let's start. Okay, here we go. So we will talk about functions a little bit for those who don't know functions. It's a serverless functions as a service framework from Microsoft. It runs locally, it runs in the cloud, it is event-driven, it scales perfectly, and it is a very good fit for microservices. By now, I think everyone is familiar with cloud computing and what the differences are. Please remember, infrastructure as a service are not cloud native or cloud computing platforms. It all starts with platform as a service and then goes on function as a service as a subpart of this. So Azure Functions has this part where it says, okay, instead of writing the whole application, I just want to focus on the code that I want to use. And so that you don't have to worry about connection to databases or setting up a web server, setting up messaging and monitoring. This is all provided for you. You only need to bring your own code that is running. So why is this important when we're talking about Excel? And we'll see that when we get to that part, because this makes Excel like the most important thing there is, and I will talk about it a little bit more later on. And this is how functions works. You usually have a trigger, which is basically often just HTTP, but it can also be a bus or whatever. And then you have input and output bindings, so you can just by configuration decide where your data is coming from and where your data is going to. When we talk about custom functions in Excel, this is nothing new. We had custom functions in Excel since like forever. And usually they used VBA back then. And the problem with VBA is, well, it is VBA. And on the other hand, it is also just running on Windows, and there are a lot of security issues with running VBA macros. And as you probably all know, it's not fun to write something for Excel and VBA. And this is what we're talking about when we're talking about custom functions. As you can see, some here, this is a function, or I think in Excel it's called formula. But basically, yeah, this is what we're talking about here. And now what Microsoft did is they implemented a JavaScript runtime into Excel. So you can run or write your functions in JavaScript or TypeScript instead of using VBA or all those other parts or methods that you could have used before. It runs on all platforms because it is JavaScript. So it runs on mobile, it runs on Mac, it runs on Windows, it runs on Excel Online. It runs very fast. It feels like native functions. There's nothing that is lacking. It is shipped as part of an add-in. You can make calls to web services or have things run offline. We'll see how this works. So goodbye VBA, hello JavaScript. As I said, you can use TypeScript or even F# with the Babel compiler or Dart. Runs everywhere. You can use a front-end developer for this. You don't need someone who knows VBA. Bye VBA. Oh, I can't stress this part enough. And you have full control over everything. When it comes to deployment, it can be deployed on in an organization scale, or it can be deployed for single workbooks or files. But in the end, you just deploy your add-in and everyone can just install it from the store, or it can be installed by your administrator for you, for everyone within your company. Can anybody hear me? Everybody hear me? It's so quiet. I feel like there's no one listening.
Yeah, it's good.
There? Okay, okay, great. I'm not used to it. Usually when I do a presentation and there are all the people in front of me, they talk to me and then it's different. Anyway, okay. So this is the schedule that Microsoft had originally in mind, what they wanted to do, so that you can start with local workloads like math problems, and then go on to public web data that you can grab and bring into your Excel. And then at some point in the future, you can have some unintended parts. And then later in the future, you can have machine learning in there too. By now, we got further ahead, and there's much more possible. But unfortunately, there are no new slides or info on the topic by Microsoft. Anywho, let's get to the demo. If you have questions, right now would be a good place before I jump into the demo. We'll wait a few seconds and then I'll go on. Okay, looks like no questions, so let's jump right in. For those of you who know Yeoman, the Yeoman generator, does anyone know the Yeoman generator? Just write in the chat as I go on. So there is a Yeoman generator for Office, and it's just your Office. When you start this, then you can see shortly after that you get the Yeoman generator telling you or asking you, hey, what do you want to do? You want to do a custom Excel custom functions add-in, or you want to do an Angular framework add-in or React framework add-in. And yeah, you can basically bring React or Angular into your Office as an add-in. So, and works for Outlook, it works for PowerPoint, it works for Excel, Word. All these can load these new add-ins that are HTML and JavaScript based, and you can bring in Angular, React, whatever you like. For this part, for Excel custom functions, is special because only Excel has those formulas that you can use. This is why there's a special part here for the add-in for Excel. So if you just choose it, it asks you if you want TypeScript or JavaScript. You go with TypeScript, give it a name, hello, let's go hello Hamburg. I go ahead, and what it does, it starts copying and installing npm packages that are needed. And yeah, you heard right. It is using npm and webpack and everything you know from JavaScript to do the job. So once it is done, I will open it in VS Code so it can have a look. As you can see here, I should cd into the repository. All right, let's go again. And as you can see here, I have my package JSON, I have my tsconfig, everything that you know from JavaScript. And then in the source part, you have different files that are here, HTML and TypeScript parts. We'll come to the parts later on, but the most important thing that you get is this manifest XML. In a manifest XML, there's basically all the information needed for the add-in to start. So you have the ID that needs to be a unique ID. You have a version, so you can have different versions of your add-in, name. You can set up default values for display name, description, for the icons, for resolution. And then basically, what is the important part for custom functions? This part here, it says, okay, it requires at least the minimum version of 1.1. And then when you go through it, at this point, you can see for the workbook you're defining here, you're defining the endpoints, right? It tells you where the source location is. And as you can see, instead of giving a source location, it uses an resource ID. And this resource ID can be found within the same file down here. And is, as you can see here, it is using just an HTTP endpoint. So you can put your add-in onto any HTTP server and serve it from there. And I can show you how I set it up on just my blob storage. After you have set all this up, one of the most important things for custom functions is this part here, the namespace. Because the namespace is used to give you access to the functions. As you can see here, you can name it whatever you want and then go ahead. I already prepared a lot of things, and I will go into that VS Code. Oops, this was the wrong. But okay, as you can see here, I've set up mine to come from excelcf.azuresample.com, and there I have all my function JS and everything. When we look into the function TS, what you see here is TypeScript code, right? So what you need to do in Excel functions is you define, you need to have the comment part that gives your function a name, a parameter, it tells your function what it returns, and then you have just a method. Let's say add in this case, you have first, second, and then it returns a number. Now when I open this up in Excel online, I have it here. I'll open up for you. Is this big enough? Can you see everything? Or should I zoom in? Okay, great. So once you open Excel, you go to the Insert ribbon, Office Add-ins, and then you go to Upload My Add-in. Now you need to provide your the manifest XML that you had before, and then you just say upload. And once there, you can see here there's a task pane. Now, when I open up this task pane, as you can see, it says lecture at home. And when we look into our code, there's a task pane and there's a task pane HTML. This is basically what is showing there. So you can put whatever HTML you want in here. You can load React, you can load Angular, whatever you want. You can load everything here and then put it in there. It will just be displayed in Excel offline, and the same happens even if you use just Excel offline. Show you that too. So sorry. When we go to insert add-ins. It's not showing, probably not showing my add-in. Yeah. So for Excel offline, what you need to do, which is stupid, you need to basically add, or let me see, just a second. Sorry, I had this all prepared on my mobile device. I totally forgot to prepare this here too. Okay, so basically what you have to do is you go to a Trust Center, and then in the Trust Center catalogs, you have to add the path to your XML file as a UNC path. Add catalog, show a menu, and then after that you need to restart Excel. Okay, now when we go to insert my add-ins, it doesn't show up. Okay. Sorry for that. We will stay in Excel online for now, and we can look at this later on. Anyway, so even in offline Excel, it will just show you the task pane, and you can put your information in there. But the most important part why we are here is we have these custom functions. And as you know, in Excel, you use equals, and then you start putting in your information. So now, since I named my namespace here, Sia, I can use Sia to access all my functions. As you can see, I have now all my functions here that I had in my TS file. Add that we had before, it says adds to numbers. When we look into our code, again, you can see here, it says adds to numbers. Whatever I'll put here will be shown up there. And when we just use that function, it says first and second. This is again something that is defined in our function here in the comments parts, first and second, and it will give you all the auto completion and everything. Now, why is this important? So, as you all know, Excel is a very, very powerful tool. And over the years, when I've been at clients, it has always been something like, hey, we have an Excel and that is doing our job today and you want to replace it. And all starts with planning for an application that is going to replace Excel. But to be honest, you will at least never get there because Excel is so powerful and has so many different formulas and so many functionalities that you basically have to rewrite Excel. So what you end up with is an application that is not as good and that is not as powerful as Excel. On the other hand, Excel, as you all know, is not a good way to manage data because it is very based on a file base. So everyone, if there's an update to something, need to distribute the new file and everything. And if there's a bug, you have to fix it and then send it to everyone again. But now we have a possibility to basically write our algorithm and then put it on a web server. And then everyone who installs our add-in will have access to all the formulas. As you can see here, this is just adding two and two. But as you all know, Excel can do magic things like when I put a number here and then I go here and say instead of the 12 here, just take this cell, it will all work. And because I use some dollar signs to keep the number and take the second number, let's say from here, I put it through here, and then I go, instead of that, I use this one, right? And tell them to stay on 4. There we go. So now when I do this, and then when I do this, as you can see, it is going to do all this stuff, right? So when I change something here, it will recalculate everything, which is nice. So Excel is reactive. It does everything reactive. And we can use that reactiveness to do amazing things. Now, let's say instead of having a local function that is calculating your stuff, use an Azure function, so that you're independent and you can just call that Azure function, give him the numbers. It will do whatever you tell him to do. And then basically you can later on just change the algorithm that you have there. Now I have an Azure function here that is basically just adding two numbers. So it's loaded. Sometimes this takes like forever. I hate this new UI. Okay, while it's loading, we'll go back here. And I have here on the left side, on the right side, I have basically the telemetry for that Azure function. And we'll see how you can use Excel to show off serverless and talk with serverless, how good it scales. As you can see here, I'm just taking as a query parameter the first and the second number. If they're parsable to int, I will just add them and then return the result. So when we go back to our Excel, and then instead of using add, we use I think it's cloud add. Cloud add, right? As you can see here, we still get our, but you can see on your side, on this side, you can see the request done, right? So now what we'll do is just replace this one, what we did here, with this. As you can see, the numbers are going higher and we can see more requests coming in. Sometimes there is a bug in Excel Online that takes like a second to show up the value, even though it is already calculated. Do that again. Yeah. But once this is done, what we can do is we can go like this. Then, as you can see, it is on the right side, you can see all the implications to the functions, and you can see how the servers are scaling because I am using more and more, right? And we can take this even further by just doing something ridiculous, like let's go from here and then here. There we go up here, and then do the same thing. This line. And now it's calculated. Oh, it's far. Anyway, and now I take all of this and I go crazy with it by going like whatever, 188. Now, as you can see, Excel is now going and calculating all this. What we'll need basically is, so we'll have a problem here, I guess, yeah. Okay, yeah, something went wrong, right? As you can see, it recovers automatically. So what went wrong? What went wrong is I said stay on F4, which is then going to be, yeah. Okay, demo didn't work. Sorry for that. It's so bad. Anyway, yeah, this is one of the things that you can do with Excel, and you can see that it's going to do all this. Yeah, it's going to break. Why is that? Anyway, there we go. And as you can see here on the right side, my servers are going up, my requests are going up. Not as impressive as it should have been. I think it's more impressive if I show you this part here, and then we go to monitor and logs, and then we'll do that again. There we go. And it should recalculate everything, unless Excel broke. Yeah, but as you can see, you can offload our algorithm to an Azure function. Well, this is nice, and this is interesting if you have some more sophisticated algorithms that you want to be calculated in the cloud where you need all the power. And this works nice to show off Azure Functions, but there's one thing that is even more interesting. So as I told you here, we have all our functions here that we can just use to do things. So you can have streaming functions, which means over time it is getting a value and then giving it back. So when we use a streaming function like this, I'll just use it in the workbook so it doesn't collide. Just to make sure I'll upload my manifest again. There we go. So we can use our streaming function like increment of. And as you can see, over time, every second, Excel is giving us a new value. And this is done here because we say every second, calculate a new value and set the result. So we have streaming functions where we can get data over time, which is even more impressive if we do, and I'm not good at this, but we will see. I'm really not an Excel guy, not really good. But what we can do is data view is chart. We do a line chart, right? Okay, line chart wasn't the right thing. Okay, anyway, so you can have charts based on the numbers that are going higher. And since everyone is just incrementing by 12, I think this is the problem there. Let's go like this. You can have interesting Excel sheets that are basically showing you all the data over time and then getting you maybe exchange rates, so you can calculate the exchange rates and everything. As you can see, if you combine all of this with everything that Excel can do, you can just bring it to life, and you can just increase functionality in Excel without losing your ability to save your data in the cloud. Because not just can you send data to a function and the function does the calculation, gives it back to you, you can store your data there. You can even load data from there. One of the other interesting parts that you can do in Excel, because you have the full power of JavaScript, is we can hook it up to SignalR, so to a WebSocket. We give it a name, like this is the Hamburg chat, right? And then now, as you can see, it says busy. Now, when we go to our function, I have a function here that is called SignalR chat. And what you can do now is we set Hamburg, right? So we can say we can send information from a server to the Excel client. So you can see once it is executed, the message is received here. So I can just change that message to whatever, hello. say run, and this is just me running it from Azure Function. You can have this server sitting anywhere and sending data through SignalR through WebSockets to the Excel online, or to Excel, to any kind of Excel basically. So another nice thing that we can do is, let's say we have a list of terms, like let's go with the German terms: Hubschrauber, Auto, Boot, Schiff, Tandem. What else is there? And we tell Excel this is DE, right? Now, I have a custom function that is calling into Microsoft Translate. It basically takes a term, right? Term always takes this one. And then the next is from which language? That is always German. And then to which language, which is then E1, right? Okay. Okay. Oh, this was wrong. Goes here. Now, right now there's nothing, but when I put in from Volia, the value is not available. It is D2, D1, E1. And let's try this again. Oh. I just tried it out before, right before the talk. Which is 2, and we have D1, D1, and then we have E2. Awesome. Can someone spot the error? Can't. Why?
Aren't you missing a $sign for DE?
For which one? For DE here?
Yes, you have one before the D.
All right, let's make it easier. We go for now with the E, and then we go. Yeah. Doesn't want to work. Let me just see here. Okay, let's try this again. DE, EN, okay, copy. Yeah, so let's go. So I want to translate this term from DE to EN. There we go. Okay, great. So instead of DE and EN, we can go just say, what is it here? It is C, or is it $sign? Maybe it's that way. Right. That's not. All right. So yeah, what does it say? Source language is not valid. Yeah, it's one. Stupid. Okay, and then this one is $the $1, right? Okay. Now we can go basically. We have to also go like this, and then we can basically go like this. Okay, great. So now we can extend it by ES, J. I don't know, what languages do you have in mind?
French.
French. Okay, then we have, here's a list of languages that they support. Let's say Filipino. Right? And then we can just go. Right? So we can do things like that. For that, I'm using just the Microsoft Translator. And because we have access to the web, we can do all sorts of things, which makes Excel now really powerful. And we can stop telling people to recreate new applications in Excel or for Excel as a replacement. Just use Excel and then make the spreadsheets work with our backends, with our servers, with our databases, without having to go through all of that. Now, as you could see, I got a message back. So Excel does understand basically errors. So in the case that you saw just in the translate, if I get an error from the web server, I'm just throwing it. And when I throw it, Excel is just showing you an error. When I go and change this to, let's say, EN, oh no, EN is a language, CH, then you can see here it says the target language is not valid. And this is basically what comes back from the Microsoft Translator API, right? So instead, you can just, as a dev, you can just go and throw exceptions, and you can return promises to Excel. The interesting part is if you return a promise to Excel, Excel knows exactly how to resolve it. This is why you see always this busy. Busy means Excel got a promise back and it is waiting for it to be resolved, right? And I'm not an expert in JavaScript. I think there are people that can do probably much more interesting things with that. But I think it makes Excel much more powerful. There is another thing that is worth mentioning is you can cancel basically invocation calls. Remember the increment that we had before? You can cancel that. And canceling an operation in Excel is basically just, let's go here. We go to the increment again. 12 again. So if you want to cancel this, canceling means just deleting. But the interesting thing is, once you delete something, your code gets called, your uncancelled code gets called, and you can react to that. You can do something with it, right? Yeah. Okay, so far the demo. Any questions?
One off-topic one. What is in your Edge browser in the top left corner? I haven't seen the symbol in my Edge browser, but you are on the development branch, right?
Yeah, this is the development channel.
Close to the tabs on the top left. Yeah.
You mean here?
Yes, this one.
Oh, this is part of the development. You can now have vertical tabs.
Haven't gotten this update yet.
It's on the dev channel. I think in the regular channel it's not there. So Sandra asked, why do you use var? Where did I use var? On the C# code? Not sure if I used var. Where did you see var?
I think in JavaScript.
Did I?
Everywhere.
Oh yeah, yeah, here. Okay.
Except of
this
the
is
URL.
yeah. This is basically when I started this, and I had no clue about JavaScript. And as you can see, I learned, and some parts changed into let or const. Basically depends on what I'm reading. But this is when I started, and I had no clue about JavaScript.
You should add a linter.
Probably.
That reminds you.
Yeah. But since I'm not really doing much JavaScript, I basically I think, isn't there a linter here? Yeah, there's one here. But yeah, basically it doesn't. Any other questions? Except for my bad coding.
Regarding the offline functionality.
Yeah.
How does this work with the function? So if you're not connected, it doesn't work, probably.
Exactly. So if it's not connected, you won't get you will get an error, right? It is like if you have a website, because basically what I'm using here is the fetch API. So if you have a JavaScript code that is using, sorry, where is it? Here. If you have your JavaScript code that is using the fetch API, and you don't have connectivity, it will basically just throw.
However, you can have some parts offline. So, for example, the UI is downloaded once, the HTML, and then
yeah.
Okay.
So
the
basically,
JavaScript part would work.
Exactly. So basically, once you compile this, you can upload it. That's what I did. I uploaded it to a static website on Azure, right? And then as soon as you load your add-in, you can see that here. Let me show you that. So when I go insert and I say Office and upload my add-in, as you can see, what he is going for that file function.json. In that function.json, there is basically just a JSON file that explains Excel how to use and what to use. So maybe another interesting thing is this is generated from your comments, right? From the code comments that you have there. Basically, you can write this your own. And as you can see, there are different things. You can have multiple parameters. And parameters are either of type scalar or of type matrix. So you can have matrix parameters, which is basically just taking in a range within Excel. And if you want to access this, or if you want to express this here, that would be, you would go with add power text, and then you would go here with message to right, and if I compile it, and I didn't do anything wrong, we should get a function JSON second parameter, which says dimensionality matrix, as you can see here. Right, and the same goes for the result type. You can have, even for your return, you can have it returns name, not sure if this works, because I'm returning just a string. Yeah. Yeah, there's the file. So, but yeah, you can basically just return everything, and Excel will know exactly how to handle this. And your anyway, you can see it here. Dimensionality in result types also matrix. And then you have these options for if it's a stream or if it is cancelable or whatever. But basically, this is generated. And then Excel is just loading that function JSON. And once you start using something, loaded. I don't know. So add. As you can see here now, he loaded function JSON, right? But this is because I reloaded and I used the first time. As you can see here, this is all still, even though it is still the function, it is cached.
Okay, thanks.
Welcome. Any other questions? Okay, great. Then that's basically it. Well, I have a few more slides, but they're not, I don't want to show them. They're about, they used to be about performance, but it is all not very useful anymore because they're outdated kind of. But you can see back then when they used Chakra Core, now they're using Chromium. It was already much, much, much faster than what VB did or the web controls that they've had in between. And yeah, it is basically just much faster now. And in the future, you can do machine learning stuff, which will be put into Excel, where you can, in Excel, just go and call machine learning parts. Oh, and you can basically, you can, by the way, you can also debug. You can debug locally. I have all the links to how to debug and how to start on GitHub, so you can see it there and use it yourself. Great, and thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Sia. So, are there any remaining questions?
What are the types of real-world use cases you have seen? So, like adding to numbers is kind of a little bit boring.
Yeah. Basically, there's nothing stopping you from doing whatever your imagination does, right? But what we use it for is, for example, one customer, and they have a spreadsheet where they are doing all their scheduling in. So basically, they have their all their customer appointments in there, and then they have a function that is sending out an SMS to the customer once he got scheduled. And because they have already this big Excel sheet that they use for the organization and for organizing their schedules, we just added the functionality to send out SMS, to send out data to the driver that they have, and all that kind of stuff. We also use it with another customer to load data from a database. It is at this point, it was, or with this customer, it was an event source database, and was a hard thing for them to always export all the data from the database and then send out all the Excel files. Instead, they change it, so whenever someone starts Excel and they update it, it will basically recalculate or get the newest data from the database, recalculate everything that they have in there. But there is no stop to do whatever you like. And the interesting part is it works on mobile and on desktop. So if someone opens the same file on their mobile and they have to add in there, they can also just use it right away. Did this answer your question, Malte?
I mean, yeah, the answer regarding that the sky is the limit is kind of obvious. I think for me, it's kind of a stretch, like seeing Excel. I have to admit, I'm not often using Excel, so it's kind of like, here's this program that does a specific set of tasks regarding data, and now you can do anything you want inside it. Is kind of weird.
Well, the thing is, if you have usually, we're devs, we basically don't use Excel unless we have to. At least I think so. But often in companies you have departments that are heavily relying on Excel, be it the business development, business intelligence, or just the secretary, whatever. And so far, most times I've seen people trying to replace that Excel file with another application that took forever to develop, that was never done, that was full of bugs, instead of just taking whatever they're using right now and enabling it to use the data that the company has stored somewhere on databases. I think this is the most common case where it will be used, basically. I mean, like in the end, Excel is just a data sheet, right?
So meeting the customers where they are.
Excuse me, what was that?
Meeting the customers where they are, basically.
Yeah, instead of trying to change their whole flows, because they usually are very efficient with Excel because they know exactly what they're doing. They know things like as reference and stuff, and I don't understand this at all. I don't know how it is. Yeah, I don't understand Excel at all, to be fair, to be honest.
Same
But
here.
they know exactly what they're doing, right? And I think why change everything that they know and that they're using right now? Look at all these. I have no clue what they do. But as you can see, I did this talk once for the Serverless Amsterdam, and you can see it is still loaded, even though I didn't load my ad.
Yeah, I can see that it's quite powerful.
Any other questions?
Yes, I have a question. How would you compare this approach against the approach from Microsoft Power Platform, where you also could use an Excel sheet as, let's say, database or at least a data source and generate the models out of it? You can also use Excel-like commands there. And I think customer with a bit of power knowledge can write his own applications with it very easily.
I totally agree with you. So the thing is that the Power Platform is basically an evolution of Excel, right? But I like to compare it a bit more with Access, because you had in Access, you had all the UI stuff where you could put in combo boxes and all that kind of stuff that you can do with Power Apps today. And I think Power Apps are very, very powerful, and you can do a lot with it. But the thing is, what you can't do with Power Apps today is you can't write your own logic and your own code. You can basically hook it up to a function and then use the function as I did here. But then again, if you want to use in Power Apps, if you want a spreadsheet, it is back to Excel. There is no such thing as a spreadsheet. It is great for creating apps, and you should use Power Apps for that. But it doesn't really, I think it doesn't really it's called, doesn't really go into comparison with Excel. I think there are two different needs for those two different applications. Does this make sense at all?
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Thank you very much. Okay, are there further questions?
Looks like there's not. I hope it was something that you liked. I hope it was something that was interesting and that didn't bore you to death. It's always hard when you can't see everyone who's there.
I think at least everyone is still in the call, so I would say it was a success. And yeah, thanks again. So the next Lectures at Home session will be on September 3rd. Then Martin Gude will talk about Bot Framework Composer. So we hope to see you all again on September 3rd.
Great, thank you.
Then, have a nice summertime.
Thank you for having me. Have a great time.
Thank you for coming over and hope to see you again.
See you guys. Bye.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.